Hey, true believers. Chris Mack coming at you today with X-Men #1. And this book brings back so many memories for me because this was right around the time I really started getting into X-Men. I was initially reading the X-Men Adventures, which was based off the cartoon, but my buddy was reading this main title. And I look at it and go, man, that is way different. So I moved over to that right around the Executioner's song event, and I was like, oh man, this is great. And it was just sort of, that was all she wrote. I was full on with the X-Men. And this is the book that really launched Mutant Mania back in the 90s, man. And like Pizza Hut used to have commercials with the X-Men. They'd have cut out cardboards, and there was trading cards. It was definitely the time to be an X-Men fan. This book came out in October of 1991, which, we're in October now. This book is officially 29 years old. And man, does that make me feel just wee bit older. But anyway, love this book. And before we jump into it, I do have an announcement to make. Saturday, October 10th, Sacred Collectibles has invited Comictopia to do a live stream trivia event. And it's going to be a whole lot of fun, guys. It starts at 9 p.m. Mountain Time. And as you guys answer questions correctly, after the event, please email us your address, and we'll mail you a comic book that you won in trivia. And it's going to be on the club. We just want to encourage reading, and with the quarantine going on, we just thought this would be a fun way for everyone to have a blast this October. A lot of our questions are going to be spooky and Halloween related, so it's going to be fun on the bun. So with that said, X-Men #1. And this book is a prime example. I know we went over Batman yesterday, but this book is a prime example of how if something gets wordy, as long as it leads to something. And that's what Chris Claremont is known for. And he was the one that kind of started with Jim Lee kickstarting this book. People know Claremont to be long-winded, but unlike a lot of modern writers, his always meant something or it led to something. So we have this plane taking off with these people. We have the Russian military chasing them. And first issue, just boom, action, tension, stakes. And then everything just kind of explains. And there's like that flash of light. And boom, the villain. Or so we think. I am Magneto. This is my home. And look at this beautiful splash page. These are spaceships, and Magneto's keeping these people alive just by the sheer of his power. Because the people that stole the experimental ship were looking for Asteroid M. The other people were trying to stop them because they stole government technology. And man, gorgeous. And I like how he says, I am rapidly losing my interest in whatever you choose to do. What you choose to do on the Earth's surface. And I refuse to allow you to export your penchant for violence to my doorstep. So at this point, we kind of see Magneto has isolated himself. Because if memory serves correctly, this series spun out of the pages of the Extinction Agenda, where everything kind of came to a head in Genosha, where the Genosians were using mutants as slaves. Because that's where this book kicks off. That's where X Factor kind of changed over hands with Cyclops handing the team over to Havoc, which is a great book. If you haven't checked out that series, check out the review we did on that one. It's an awfully awesome book. I know awfully good, should I say. But anyway, before we get further into this, let's talk about who made the Rubicon. So it's Chris Claremont and Jim Lee co-plotters. Claremont is the writer. Jim Lee is the penciler. Scott Williams is the inker. Tom Orzanowski is the letterer. Joe Rosas is the colorist. Suzanne Gaffney is the assistant editor. Bob Harris, the editor. And Tom DeFalco, editor-in-chief. All-star cast put on this book, guys. And it shows in this absolute beauty of the artwork. And so you come to find out that the people that were seeking asylum, they're mutants. And they're asking Magneto to save them. He said, "You can't send us back. We came to find you. Lord Magneto, we're mutants like you. We've come to serve, to pledge our lives to your glorious cause." And just look at the artwork here, the colors, the inks, the penciling. A man who's deep in thought, conflicted. Those days are done, woman. That man is no more. In mercy's name, your people need you now more than ever. Can you abandon them? Can you abandon your destiny? Oh, that just hits hard. And then we kind of start to see where things come to a head with Magneto destroying these ships over Russia. Because again, 91 Berlin Wall just barely came down, so the Cold War tensions were still there. And it shows in the book. And so you see Nick Fury trying to find out, he's like, I might have an alternative to all-out war. And with that, oh yeah, reintroduced to our merry mutants. And my goodness, the artwork here is uncanny, pun intended. And what I really like about this is what they're doing is they're doing training exercises, checking out all the security on the ground. So they split the teams up to try to infiltrate from different, like from the sky and from below underground. And what I like here is we see the two team leaders, the original and the one that carried them through all the rough times when the original team left. And just gorgeous, gorgeous work. And so the main point is to capture, is to, see if they can infiltrate the mansion and to capture Xavier. And at this point, I believe, if I'm wrong, let me know down in the comments. Like, I've read a majority of the X-Men books, but, over time and years, things start to slip. If I'm not mistaken, Xavier had been in Shi'ar space. They believed him dead. He came back. And you can see that this is a man conflicted because he's been apart from the X-Men for so long. He's like, and Jean's just like, old times? What is the saying, Jean? I can't speak French, but it's basically the more things change, the more they stay the same. So much has changed since I was last in this mansion and taken an active role in the leadership of the X-Men, including myself. It's almost as though we were all coming together for the first time. And, at this point, this is a man with a lot of regrets, which again fall out of the Extinction Agenda. Because he's like, with bridges built between humanity and its mutant offspring. Instead, we seem to be at each other's throats, now more than ever. The differences between us sharpened to a killing edge, with some of the children entrusted to my care, buried. So, of course, this is the New Mutants. And if you guys know what issue that he's referring to, I've been looking all over for it. But he's talking about the death of Doug Ramsey and Warlock. He's like, I keep wondering, had I never left, could I somehow prevented this from happening? So that's what I've always liked about Xavier when he was written like this, is he's a man who carries the weight of the world on his shoulders, just like Cyclops. And he's always wondering how he'd be able to change, if you could change things or not. Now, fun fact here is this is the first time where Xavier, I believe, uses the hover chair. So for all of us through the 90s knew that he had this. Through majority, Stan Lee and the Claremont era, he was just a regular wheelchair. So this is the first time you actually see him using Shi'ar technology. Now, as the teams are practicing checking out the perimeter, look at this gorgeous work of Rogue, just flying, taking on the missiles, and then, boom, Warren throws Colossus like a wrecking ball. Now, here's what's kind of fun, is you start to see, as we're going through and being reintroduced to the team, Claremont with the writing and the art team's gorgeous work here shows the strengths and weaknesses as they split up the teams. So we have Colossus able to wreck his way into the mansion. And Beast here, he's kind of running the scenarios with Scott and Storm. He goes, for what it's worth, oh fearless leader, given Archangel's speed and Colossus' mass, our armored Russian comrade would make a fairly impressive wrecking ball. probably demolish the mansion all by himself. That's a physical power, Hank. How's that going to help him against Jean's psychic, telepathic attack? So you see that he's a good bruiser, but going up against the telepath, not so much. And now we're taken to the subterranean team, which is Psylocke, Wolverine, and Gambit. And I love when they first launched this book, they had Wolverine in the brown suit. I wish they would have kept that, because the yellow, the tiger stripe one, it's okay, but I've always loved the brown suit. Now here, these are more kind of the roguish, Gambit being a thief, Wolverine being, ex-military kind of murder, Psylocke being transferred into the body of a Japanese assassin instead of, being in her British body. And so they start to work together, but Remy bails. And as where Colossus just used sheer brute strength to bust in, Gambit uses stealth. And before Jean can hit him with a psychic blast, because he's agile and quick, he hits her with his explosive playing cards. Now, did he get Jean? Check out the book. Now, what I like here is they're kind of talking about what happened with Gambit. And the next thing, boom! Wolverine's claws bust out of the floor. And this reminds me of Marvel Comics Presents Weapon X, when he busts through the walls to get to Cornelius and the Professor and Hines. And Professor X is just like, oh my lord! Wolverine comes in just shredded up, because he knows how to be a bruiser. He goes, bang, Charlie, you're dead. And of course, Claremont references the tensions between Cyclops and Wolverine, saying, careful, you could have sliced and hurt the Professor. And Wolverine's like, I'm out of here. If you need to train with me, use my Danger Room doppelganger. He's like, I got better things to do. And of course, Cyclops, these two always button heads. That idiot! Some things, I guess, never change. And then we just talk about that with the Professor, how the more things change, the more they stay the same. Now the X-Men are briefed with Nick Fury about Magneto and what's going on. And what's kind of cool about these books, they come with these beautiful art posters in the middle, but I don't want to spoil those. Now, while they're being briefed by Nick, we have the Russian soldiers and the mutants seeking asylum, and tensions are rising. And Magneto's just like, you are guests in my home. I require you to respect the rules of comedy as I do those of hospitality. But the Russians who are going after these people just does not want to play nice. And so he pegs one of them. She goes, we pledge our lives to your cause. And just kind of this deadpan stare, he goes, but I have no more cause. And what kind of led up to Wolverine, Magneto living in seclusion here, taking lives and whatnot. It's really, really rough. But as things kind of come to a boiling point, this guy here is Fabian Cortez. He goes, it must be coached in terms of those flat scans can understand. Flat scans. Those genetic dead-ends unblessed with our mutant abilities. What term, Cortez, do you suggest? So here's where kind of the action is brought in. And here we go back to, I don't remember what issue it is, where Magneto threatens to use these nukes on America, and that's where they kind of grant him Asteroid M and amnesty there. But he relaunches the sub that he sunk and killed all the people. And here's where all the action begins. The X-Men come to find out what's going on. And here he's like, Wolverine says, you raise this wreck out of the kindness of your heart, Mags? Figure maybe to give these boys a decent burial. I sunk Leningrad as an act of self-defense, Wolverine. I resurrected for the same reason. And here, the Scott, being the old fearless leader, comes at Magneto. Instead of Magneto tearing the ship apart, he just stops it. Because Magneto's trying to say, don't you see that right now Homo Superior is the way to go, and what the humans are planning to do to all of us. He's like, I won't see that happen. But the X-Men just jump into it. Betsy just kicks the living crap out of him, and just seeing her ferocity, how she smacks Magneto. Wolverine comes in and slashes. He goes, have you X-Men gone mad? I said I meant you no harm. Why do you assault me? Good Lord! Maybe because the words don't matter as much as the heart and soul of the person speaking them. So Cyclops is like, I gotta break this up or Wolverine's gonna kill him. So he shoots him into the sub. And right here, this is rough. It says, some died, and this is talking about the people on the Leningrad. Some died in a blinding instant as the hull collapsed and the sea rushed in to claim their lives. Others in the compartments which didn't rupture faced the slower oblivion of asphyxiation. All this time he'd thought about them in abstract, pawns instead of men. Now though, at last he finds himself face to face with the consequences of his acts. Whew. It brings a little bit of the PTSD of, him being in the concentration camps. Now, Magneto is just at this point kind of snapped. He goes, leave me be. Now, him and Rogue sort of had a relationship in the Savage Land. And she's like, you guys should have done what you did from the start. Talk to the man. And so she's trying to go and talk to Magneto. But one of the the military at this point stepped in. They hit her with a nuke. And that sort of launches Magneto off. He says, there is your answer, child, and mine. Whatever we decide, the world will never accept us. They only mean our destruction as individuals and as a species. But at least here I can save one. And here's where Magneto finally just says that he's had enough. Now, what happens with Rogue, I don't want to give away. Needless to say, this is the first time we are introduced to the Acolytes. This is their first appearance. And also the first appearance of the gold and the blue team. And how Xavier says this, having two different teams like this allows them to carry out more missions, essentially. And also, when you go back and reread it, I didn't want to spoil the panel, but this is the first time the original X team actually gets to see the Shi'ar danger room. So there's lots of firsts in this book as well. And with this first issue, you know how sometimes you'll read these relaunch number ones, and it just doesn't feel like anything new. Like it's not treading any ground, there's no stakes. It's like you read it and you're like, wow, that did not go anywhere. This number one is dealing with the fallout of the Extinction Agenda, bringing in new villains. Speaking of which, this guy here, his name's Delgado. So I'm thinking, when we went over Astonishing X-Men number 1, when Blink cuts that guy in half, I think that was the Earth 295 equivalent of this dude, of this Acolyte. So, little fun tidbit there. If not, check out the Age of Apocalypse review that we're going through right now. And just look at this artwork. Look at how Wolverine looks, the action lines, just how everything comes together to make everything gorgeous. Now, when Betsy first joined the X-Men, she was a little more timid because all she was a telepath. She always had to wear armor. But after everything with the Siege Perilous, and she turned into, her body was transferred into the mind of an assassin. Here, she kicks the crap out of one of the Acolytes. And she's like, I could more easily do this telepathically from a distance. Like it. I crave it. How does Wolverine call it? An action junkie? Something to watch out for. It's a temptation a foe could learn to use against me. So I like that here, with something happening, we're kind of starting to see how Psylocke is dealing with being able to have these physical abilities that she did not initially have. oh man, these splash pages just take your breath away. I mean, look at the composition here, the coloring, and how it all comes together. Now, I don't want to read all this because, like I said, Claremont does get wordy, but all of this means something. They're just not like, talking about coffee or exposition dumps. This is Magneto basically showing the X-Men why this is the route that he is going to go. He says that Asteroid M is going to become a safe haven for all mutants. He says, even you X-Men, even our mentor, my old friend, Charles Xavier, are welcome here. But mark this, and mark it well. Harm done against any mutant is harm done to me. Whew. That is how you comic. I can see why this was a hot seller back in the day, because this leads somewhere, shows how the X-Men, new generation, kind of the different route that they're going here in the 90s. Oh man, if you guys don't have a copy of this, is definitely one you need to have in your collection. I just recently picked up the connecting covers from a guy named Nick. He was doing one of those live auctions. He had the whole set, and I went, yeah, I want it. So I have all the connecting issues here, and it looks absolutely beautiful. So yeah, if you guys have enjoyed this comic book, please, first and foremost, check with your local comic shop to see if they have it. If not, then check out some of these online auctions or the secondary market if you don't have a local comic shop in your area. If you've enjoyed this review, we really would appreciate it if you take a minute to hit like, share, and subscribe. Helps the club channel more than you could possibly know. And if you wouldn't mind hitting that fancy little X bell next to subscribe, that way as we continue to upload content, you guys will get notified. And we love for y'all just to come to the channel, have a dialogue with y'all, and just hear your feedback down in the comments below or on our social media pages, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description below. Also, I'll make sure to leave the link to the trivia event down in the description as well. And I hope to see you guys Saturday night. It's going to be so much fun. And, just to hang out with everybody and, excuse me, just have a blast through all the craziness that's going on right now. So with all that said, I hope y'all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, true believers.